Circuit. I'm Isaiah.
And this is Devin. You already know.
And today, we're going to go over another hot episode of sports, football, basketball, everything in between. So as we get started, we're going to get into the big news in the NFL. All these big signings, Calvin Johnson, Vincent Jackson, so many players. Calvin Johnson cashed in today, $132 million over 7 years for the Detroit Lions, the richest contract for any wide receiver, surpassing Larry Fitzgerald's $120 million contract. What do you think about that?
He's severely overpaid. I mean, over $100 million for a wide receiver? Come on now.
I mean, you gotta think about it too. I mean, the Lions finally had a full season between him and Stafford, Matthew Stafford, 5,000 yards. 3 quarterbacks this season threw for 5,000 yards. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Matthew Stafford.
That's because the league is getting soft now, and a lot of quarterbacks are putting up career numbers.
So don't you think that the Lions understand that logic and they're cashing in with their wide receiver?
$100 million for a wide receiver?
I mean, think about it. Vincent Jackson cashed in this today too.
He didn't get $100 million.
He got $55 million. That's a lot of millions. That's a lot of millions for Vincent Jackson.
What are you trying to say? Vincent Jackson ain't good?
I'm not saying he's what. I mean, honestly, I think he's very good. But I don't really see him as a primary wide receiver like that. Not to the likes of Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, or even Brandon Marshall, who just got traded to the Chicago Bears today. Even though he's a loose cannon at times.
Loose cannon. I mean, he's just an emotional guy. We all get emotional sometimes.
Well, recently, I would say prior to the trade, he was in an incident just yesterday.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Let's say allegedly. We got to keep it professional. Allegedly, in a nightclub where he allegedly smacked a young lady. Now, no one knows who's at fault or if the alleged incident is true. But he has had previous incidents where he has had problems off the field. So, with that said, you know, he's still an elite wide receiver. I don't see Vincent Jackson in that upper echelon of wide receivers like that.
I mean, he's going to the Bucs. He's gonna be elite. He has a great young quarterback in Josh Freeman. I think he'll put up good numbers this season.
I mean, we'll see what happens. The Eagles, they just signed Deshaun Jackson to a 5-year, $51 million extension. So do you think that is justified?
Now, he is overrated. All right, He's either hit or miss. Either he has a 200-yard game, and then next week he'll have a 2-yard game. I think they're going to regret that.
Well, honestly, I feel like last season, pertaining to his contract situation, he allowed it to get the best of him, and it showed in his play. He had career lows in every statistic, and he seemed like he wasn't really there. When he's on, as in his first 2 seasons, he's shown a propensity to make big plays, and he honestly affects so much more outside of just catching the ball or running punchback or kicks. He psychologically affects defenses. They have to account for where he's at. So I think potential-wise, he's worth the money. But it's just certain mannerisms that he shows when he's not fully into it that affect my way of thinking towards him.
Well, he only runs one route. He runs the fly, and if you take that away, he doesn't do anything.
But it's very effective. It's very effective.
It's not that effective. All you got to do is put a safety over the top, and he stopped.
Hey, it helped him cash in the $51 million.
It's not $100 million, though, like that loser Calvin Johnson.
Why is he a loser?
He plays for the worst franchise in the NFL. And they have one good season, and that justifies our $100 million contract. That's why the Lions are the Lions, because they make dumb decisions like that. Now, a guy like Adrian Peterson, the best running back in the NFL, deserves $100 million. Calvin Johnson, $100 million? I don't think so.
I mean, he has 3 years of over at least 12 touchdowns with 3 seasons of over 1,000.
That's because
last year he led the league in receiving yards, over 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns with numerous highlight catches, as the one we see in the background here. I mean, he's obviously one of the best receivers that we've seen in a long time.
He get a lot of yards because they be losing by like 4 touchdowns, so they have to pass the ball so they can try to catch up. I mean, it usually doesn't work. But at least he gets his numbers right.
I mean, you're making excuses. They finished the season 11-5.
But what happened in the playoffs?
They were in a close game with the Saints.
Close, but not good enough. Close is not good enough. That's a loser's mentality.
So if you're using that same logic, then why don't you use that? Why don't you apply that same logic to players like Vincent Jackson or players like
Because they didn't get $100 million.
Larry Fitzgerald is the same style of player.
Larry Fitzgerald went to a Super Bowl.
Obviously, circumstances along with his work ethic and his team helped him get there. The Lions see potential in Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford in their playmaking ability in the defensive backfield, and they see potential in the team. They invested in him for 7 years, and they know that financially that money's going to come back because now the Lions have something to build on.
They will be in last place. Mark it down. They will be in last place in the division this next year.
Well, since we're talking about winning, as we do on the winning circuit, let's move on to the NBA. I mean, honestly, this trade deadline has a lot of people thinking. You have players like Dwight Howard, players like Carmelo Anthony.
Who's a winner?
We'll get into that later. But, I mean, this trade deadline has the league swarming around Dwight Howard. He is reported that he spoke to his teammates recently, and he said that he won't opt out of his contract that's coming up next year. So that means that he's saying that he will stay with the Magic. Now that contradicts what he said early in the season, where he said he would like to be traded,
and gave a list of teams that he'll be traded to. He would like to be traded to, such as
the Mavericks, the Nets, the Lakers. I mean, it's so many teams. I mean, I don't even think Dwight Howard knows what he wants to do.
I do. He wants to get out of Orlando.
Well, Orlando's been in a situation before, about let's say 16 years ago, with the likes of Shaquille O'Neal, who told the Magic that he would stay with the Magic. He allegedly said that his first option was the Magic, so he led them on. That's how the Magic fans feel. And then in the heat of the night, he went to a better situation in Los Angeles with Kobe Bryant, Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, and the Lakers organization.
And won 3 championships.
In the process.
I guess that's what Dwight Howard wants to do. But his problem is he's still talking about it. He should just let it flow. Let it happen or not happen.
So do you think he'll be traded?
Yeah. Because if the Magic are a smart organization, they will trade him because they will realize that he does not want to be there.
So you hold no merit to his statement?
No. I mean, look who he has on his team. Jameer Nelson, Quentin Richardson, Ryan Anderson. Who would want to play with these people?
Well, if he let's look at the prospects of teams that he wants to go to. The New Jersey Nets, they have
Brooklyn Nets in the future.
Definitely. Next year, as a matter of fact. So that has some draw to it, being in New York. And if the Nets do find a way to get Dwight Howard, I think Darren Williams will want to stay because of the potential, as we spoke on previously.
But they'll always be second fiddle to the Knicks if he goes there. The Knicks will always be the number 1 team in New York, kind of like the Lakers are always the number 1 team in LA.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that a lot of these teams are banking on, as far as we're looking at Dwight, they see his impact in the post. They see his impact on defenses. But obviously, he's a very good talent. He's actually a very good defensive player. But I feel like what he's not reaching his full potential offensively, which teams do need in the postseason.
That's because he doesn't have a point guard to pass him the ball. If he came to the Knicks with Jeremy Lin as his point guard, Carmelo on the wing, he'll average like 25, 30 points.
Well, obviously, I think he's lobbying for Dwight Howard.
I'm not lobbying anything. We have a good team. They're playing a little badly right now, but they'll get it together.
Well, I mean, you guys are 18-24, and your coach just resigned today. How do you feel about that?
I'm kind of sad he resigned. I'm not happy he resigned, but I'm happy he's leaving, if that makes sense. I don't think he's a good coach at all. He doesn't preach defense. His rotations are too long, and frankly, he doesn't know how to run the offense. You're an offensive coach who can't run the offense. What sense does that make?
Well, here's the thing. The Knicks are 18-24.
You said that already.
I have to emphasize the point. They're 18-24. They lost 8 out of the last 10 games, and Carmelo Anthony is just returning from an injury. Before this injury, they were on a euphoric high with Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin was tearing up the streets. They were beating the teams like the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers, albeit at home. But this is great competition for the Knicks. They're beating teams on the road. They're finding ways to win. Now all of a sudden, they're not winning anymore. What's the common denominator for winning and not winning? Jeremy Lin's there, Carmelo Anthony's not there, they win. Mike D'Antoni's job is safe. Then Carmelo Anthony comes back. They have to reincorporate him into the system. All of a sudden, they're not winning anymore. Did this sound familiar to you guys?
No.
When he came to the Knicks, Amari Stoudemire scoring average is 25 points a game. MVP candidate. The Knicks are automatically in the playoffs. Now they're building something. Carmelo comes, they think it's a championship. All of a sudden, his scoring average goes down to 17 points a game, shooting less than 45%. His scoring average dipped 8 points a game. That's the biggest drop of any NBA player in the NBA. How is this possible? I don't want to necessarily blame it all on Carmelo.
Hey, that's what it sounds like you're doing.
But he plays a big role in why things are happening the way they're happening.
No. You sound like everybody else. Everybody wants to blame Carmelo. What about the rest of the team? Last game, Amari had 3 rebounds. Taj Gibson had 8 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. Is that Carmelo's fault or is that Amari's fault?
Let me ask you a question. Is he a small forward?
Yes.
Is he 6'8"?
Yes. And he had 8 rebounds.
Is he 240? He is 240. So that means that I'm not saying that Amari shouldn't rebound. He's a deplorable rebounder. He cannot rebound to save his life.
So how is everything Carmelo's fault?
But Carmelo, the problem stemmed from offensively. Offensively, the ball sticks to Carmelo. It's already been reported that Carmelo cannot adjust to Mike D'Antoni's system.
Well, he doesn't have to anymore because Mike D'Antoni quit.
Now, just to give you guys some background, recently a New York Post article came out stating that Carmelo Anthony wanted to be traded prior to the
Which is a lie.
trade deadline. Now, Carmelo came out and disputed these arguments. But here's the thing. There's friction in the locker room. The culture in the Knicks locker room is ultimately affected because of this. They don't know where the offense is coming from. They don't know their defensive philosophies anymore. There's not much that you can say is on the up and up for the Knicks. What do you think will happen
with the Knicks?
Yeah.
They will win the division, get the 3rd seed, go to the NBA Finals, and win the NBA Finals. Now, do you think Carmelo? It sounds like you think Carmelo is a loser. He is not a loser. Maybe on Denver he was a loser. I mean, it's Denver. I mean, people in Denver don't win. But with the Knicks, he does his thing. Do you remember Game 2 of last year in the playoffs? He had 42 points and 18 rebounds. Was that his fault too?
Well, I want to say this. Carmelo Anthony is a great offensive talent, and he was one of those players who can complement a championship.
What?
But I think the true problem with Carmelo is that he's one-dimensional. I don't think he affects anything outside of scoring. And if he can't score, he doesn't really
rebounds. He rebounds better than Amari. Well, how come nobody ever blames Amari? Everybody blames Carmelo. What about Amari?
Obviously, before Carmelo.
Oh my God!
I'm not saying that Amari is not to blame. Everybody in the organization is to blame, from James Dolan on down. But I feel that Carmelo is the focal point because he's Carmelo Anthony. He's an elite player in the NBA. He represents the Knicks. Just as Amari did before Carmelo got there, he was the focal point of the Knicks. He was leading the Knicks. When the Knicks had Raymond Felton, when they had the likes of Gallinari, when they had all of these pieces, they were winning. Right or am I right?
They were like 2 games over 500. And that's not winning. That's barely getting by. That's not good enough. With Carmelo, they will win the championship.
Now, mind you, he just said they were 2 games over 500. That's barely getting by. What was the Knicks' record last year?
They were 42-40.
So that's barely getting by. So that represents a winner to you and Carmelo Anthony.
Listen, the Knicks will win. They'll go on a 10-game winning streak. This will all blow over, and then people like him will stop dissing Carmelo Anthony. I'm tired of it.
Obviously, this is Nick Nostradamus over here. He's predicting everything.
That's right.
Well, let's detour for a second.
So, do you think the Knicks should trade Carmelo?
Well,
it sounds like you do.
Well, obviously, he's not getting traded if D'Antoni is out.
Why not?
So,
what if both of them are going? Then what?
Then the Knicks are abysmal, just like they were 10 years ago.
But you just said they were better without Carmelo.
I feel like they are better. They were better without Carmelo.
So shouldn't they trade Carmelo?
But the Knicks made a decision. They already put their line in the sand, and they decided to build around Carmelo. Now, they have Mike Williams as the interim coach.
Mike Woodson.
Mike Woodson, former coach of the Atlanta Hawks, who's a defensive specialist. That's what he was brought in to do. Here's my thing with those guys. With Mike Woodson, he'll put emphasis on defense as he already has. Because D'Antoni is out, where his system was everybody shoot the ball, J.R. Smith, Steve Novak, Jeremy Lin, Carmelo, there wasn't any really breakdown of who should get shots and who should not. So I think that Mike Woodson will find a way to rein that in and put more of a focus on Carmelo since D'Antoni is out. I think the pick and roll style of offense will kind of pipe down a little bit, but we'll see where they can go. Because they made this change, something has to happen. The Knicks have to win because heads are gonna roll.
It starts tonight. They will beat the Trailblazers by at least 20 points. Mark it down. You heard it here first.
Let's detour for a second. We'll get back to this. Mark my words, people. We will get back to this. Oh, and if you want to chime in on anything, give us a call. 203-345-0103.
Please, because this guy is just bashing Carmelo, and then we need to hear from you people.
Hey, I'm only talking the facts. I could.
What facts? He's a top 10 player in the NBA.
Top 10 player in the NBA, who's only
probably top 5.
Who's only been out the first round one time.
But he wasn't on the Knicks for those years. We talk about the past 2 years. He is a top 5 player in the NBA right now.
You're saying that as if he's playing elite right now. He's shooting 21. He's averaging 21 points a game.
That's good.
Shooting under 43%.
That's because he's trying to get his teammates involved, like Jeremy Lin.
How many assists does he average this year?
He averaged about 4 assists. That's pretty good for.
That's getting your teammates involved.
4 assists is a lot for Carmelo.
For a player who barely passes the ball, this is a career year in assists for Carmelo. For half of the year, he's played point forward, which was a time when the Knicks needed a point guard.
Michael Jordan only averaged 5.
They were not successful. Obviously, Carmelo Anthony's not a playmaker. He doesn't know how to affect.
What? Are you serious? Michael Jordan only averaged 5 assists. So you're saying 1 assist is that big of a difference?
Are you saying that Carmelo Anthony's a better playmaker than Michael Jordan?
I just said no.
You're bringing up Michael Jordan and comparing Michael Jordan. Nobody's talking about Michael Jordan.
I said Michael Jordan averaged 5, and Carmelo averaged 4.
And so Michael Jordan has multiple seasons of over 6 assists.
Well, Carmelo didn't have that chance yet. He will get that chance.
Mind you,
that's because they didn't have a point guard.
In our previous episode of the Winner Circuit, Mr. Thomas over here brought up the fact that he believes Carmelo Anthony is a pure scorer in the NBA.
The best scorer in the NBA, that's right.
Let's break something down, people, and this is all facts. You can look this up. Carmelo Anthony has 1 50-point game. He has 1 50-point game. He has 20 40-point games.
That's a lot.
He has 20 40-point games in 9 seasons.
That's a lot.
Also, he has 3 years of under 22 points a game.
But he wasn't on the Knicks for those years.
Inconsistent.
He wasn't on the Knicks for those years.
His effect on the game is scoring. So I can understand that people say he's a scorer. But is he the best scorer in the NBA?
Yes.
I disagree with that.
Because why? Yes.
There are players with the likes of LeBron James, the likes of Dwayne Wade, the likes of Kevin Durant, the likes of Kobe Bryant, who consistently score more than Carmelo Anthony.
You mean Kobe Bryant?
Carmelo Anthony
goes like 9 for 37 from the field, and that's good to you? That's sufficient to you? When has Carmelo ever went 9 for 37?
Obviously, Carmelo Anthony is an inconsistent scorer, as I just pointed out to you. If you're in 9 years in the NBA and you have 3 seasons of up under 22 points a game, And in those seasons, you shoot 40%, 43%, and 44%. That is not necessarily the most efficient scorer that we've seen in the NBA. When you have the likes of a LeBron James, who shoots consistently 50%.
That's because all he does is dunk the ball.
All he does is dunk the ball. You need to relook at your stats because LeBron James, of all the scoring superstars, shoots the best mid-range jump shot.
No.
You can look it up.
Is better
you can look it up.
LeBron's.
Who makes more three-pointers?
LeBron
James. Who makes more?
No, he doesn't.
LeBron James makes more three-pointers than Carmelo Anthony.
Just
look up, people. I only talk facts. You can look this up.
Just admit that you're a Carmelo hater, and we'll just move on.
Let's move on then, because obviously, you see the fact that he has a Knicks hat on and a Knicks shirt on.
That doesn't have anything to do with it.
There's some bias.
This doesn't have anything to do with anything. I'm just spitting the facts.
As we transition, let's talk about some other trades in the NBA. Monta Ellis was just traded yesterday for Andrew Bogut and Steven Jackson. How do you feel about that trade?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter because, the Knicks and the Bucks are fighting for that last seed. And everybody knows the Knicks are making the playoffs and the Bucks aren't. So now they're just trying to sell tickets, I think.
Well, I feel like the Bucks made a clear transition into playoff mode.
Who's going to play center for them?
They need another scorer, so they figure out we take the scoring load up off of Brandon Jennings, who isn't necessarily the most consistent scorer that we have in the NBA. So they make a trade to bring in scoring. Obviously, they lose something in Andrew Bogut, but he wasn't necessarily playing in the best conditions anyway. He's coming back from a sprained ankle, and he hasn't played since January 25th. So they've been already playing without Andrew Bogut in the first place. Steven Jackson and Scott Skiles have had a rift for the entire season, in the fact that he hasn't really played much, and defensively he doesn't really try. So that doesn't.
Monta Ellis doesn't try defensively.
Indeed, but I feel like he wants to win. So there will be an effort there.
How do you know he wants to win?
Well,
because he played for Golden State all his life.
And he's been in Golden State for about 7 years, and they made the playoffs in an almost legendary year for Golden State. They barely made the playoffs. But in 2008, they went to the second round against the Phoenix Suns. And excuse me, 2007. But they beat the Jazz.
No, they beat the Mavericks.
They beat the Mavericks to play the Jazz.
And they lost.
Indeed. So, I mean, that year was somewhat of a flash in the pan for them. It hasn't really materialized after that. So, what I will say is, I think Monta wants to win. I think Scott Skiles will be a head coach who instills that in him, but I feel like he can't really I feel like he can't really bring them to a championship level. They still have to build.
Maybe it's the coach. You ever notice that everybody has a problem with Scott Skiles? Maybe it's Scott Skiles. Isn't he the coach that had a problem with Ben Wallace because he wore a headband? Do you really think that's the coach that's going to take you to the promised land?
Well, I mean, in Milwaukee, they haven't really seen the promised land since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson. So I think they're pretty used to that.
Would you say that Milwaukee should be used to losing because they're Milwaukee? What kind of stuff is that?
Well, the last time they really had a good chance to win was with the likes of Ray Allen, Tim Thomas, Glenn Robinson, Eldon Campbell. So not Eldon Campbell. What's his name? Scott Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of players who influence Milwaukee, but they never really take it to the next level. So this is just another year for them. I don't see them as a franchise who really makes a difference in the NBA.
Well, every franchise makes a difference except for the Bobcats because Michael Jordan owns the team. But that's another story. I think Monta Ellis and Brandon Jennings will make a good, exciting young backcourt. I mean, they don't sell any tickets anyway, so they might as well just sell tickets. And while fighting for a playoff spot. They're probably going to fight for that 8th seed with Boston because once the Knicks get on the roll, as I predicted, they'll get that 3rd seed. So it's going to be between Boston and Milwaukee for that last spot to play probably Chicago in the first round where either team will lose and get swept.
So how do you feel let's say the Bucks make the playoffs. How do you feel they'll match up with the Bulls?
Oh Lord, they'll get killed. Nobody could guard Derrick Rose. They don't have a center anymore. They don't have a power forward. It'll be a nightmare for them.
I mean, but they never necessarily had a center in the first place.
I mean, Andrew Bogun's gonna come back eventually. I think.
Yeah,
He is always hurt, but I don't know. Maybe it's just Milwaukee. Maybe a change of scenery is good for him. Maybe Milwaukee's medical staff isn't up to par with the rest of the NBA. I don't know.
well,
I don't know.
I feel like for Milwaukee to win, they have to land, whether it's through drafting, whether it's through trades, or anything of that nature. I feel like they have to build a consistent winner. Their point guard of the future is Brandon Jennings, and he's a very good young point guard. But there's some inconsistencies with his scoring ability and somewhat of his playmaking ability to really be effective. I think that
But he played for Milwaukee. He had nobody to pass the ball to. Who he's gonna pass it to? Drew Gooden?
a lot of that isn't necessary. You have to bring the best out of what you have.
Sometimes it's just hopeless.
They do have some pieces.
Like who?
They have Drew Gooden. They have Brandon Jennings. When Steven Jackson was there, he was somewhat of a perimeter scorer, and they have a young bench. So they have somewhat of a team that is willing to be built around him. He is a great player in his own right, but I feel like he has to become more disciplined with his shooting. He shoots less than 42%, and he shoots nothing but threes. So one night he'll have 7 points, and then the next night he'll have 34. There's no consistency.
That's a 20-point per game average. That's not bad.
Hey, man, would you rather have 20 every night or 34?
Hey, averaging 20 is averaging 20. No matter how you get it, it's still averaging 20.
But the consistency is what adds up to wins.
So you want them to have 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 instead of
And win.
7, 30, 7, and 30?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Are they winning?
Well, compared to the Knicks, no, because nobody wins compared to the Knicks.
Well, let's move on. We'll get back to the Knicks because I know that's a strong emphasis on your heart right now. So we'll get back to the Knicks. As we move on, the NCAA tournament is about to begin.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on with one of your players' alma maters, the Syracuse Orangemen. Then
Haven't been the same since Carmelo left, who's a loser compared to my co-host right here,
well,
who got them their only national championship in like 100 years.
is he a winner in the NBA?
He wins. It doesn't matter where you win, as long as you win.
People, this is excuses, by the way.
It's not an excuse. Did he win the national championship? Yes or no?
Did he win in the NBA? That's what I asked you.
He's not. When he's on the Knicks now, he will win. You can't win in Denver unless you're John Elway
Oh my gosh.
and Tim Tebow to an extent.
People. Let's just stick to the script, people. So Jim Boeheim has another number one seed for his Syracuse Orangemen. They obviously are an elite team, but off the court there's been issues. Prior to this week, there's been a report that since 2001, 10 players have failed drug tests for recreational drug use in his program, and some of those players were still allowed to play while not being notified that they failed drug tests. Also, recently he's had academic issues with some of his players, mainly one of his foundation players, Fab Melo. Now, Fab Melo is one of the best big men in the NBA, best big men in college basketball. I'm sorry for the mess up, but he's already missed 3 games because of academic ineligibility, and they say that this suspension for the NCAA tournament is because of that ineligibility before. So, how do you think the Orangemen will fare in the tournament?
They probably get to the Final Four, but they won't win the whole thing. Duke is winning the national championship this year. Mark it down.
Well, during the three games that Fab Melo didn't play, they played the Orangemen West Virginia, and
They played Notre Dame, who they lost to.
in those games, they were out rebounded handily, but when Fat Melo's in the lineup, they are consistently out rebounding teams and get into the fast break, which helps them win these games. Do you think Jim Boeheim will be able to get the most out of his players? Because without Fat Melo in there,
he has a deep team regardless, though.
but they're mostly perimeter based. How do you feel that they will match up if they get to the Final Four? A lot of teams in the tournament right now are building around larger players. Like Kansas has Thomas Robinson, Calipari, and Kentucky he has Davis. You know, there's teams that have an interior presence that will help them win. With Fat Melo out, I don't think there's a necessarily dominant interior force.
They have Rakeem Christmas, who isn't as good, but he was a highly regarded recruit, and hopefully he'll live up to his hype.
Well, as we mentioned, we mentioned Kansas. We mentioned Kentucky, by the way. John Calipari, he's been widely regarded as one of the best college coaches in the NCAA.
And most overrated.
Well, he does find a way to get NBA talent in the NBA. His methods are not necessarily the most sought after. They're not. You wouldn't say that they're in books to study. You know what I mean? They're not conventional, by the way. But he does have a track record of players who consistently go to the NBA. You have John Wall, you have Derrick Rose, Tyreke Evans, Marcus Camby. These are players who consistently go to the NBA and are high picks. He has DeMarcus Cousins. He has other players who can bolster his track record. Most of them leave after 1 or 2 years, but he has that track record. Do you feel like this team that he has in Kentucky can win a national championship for him? His first, by the way.
I don't think they'll get to the Final Four. I think they'll lose to Duke in the Elite Eight. Matter of fact, no. You heard it here first, people. Kentucky, the number 1 overall seed, will lose to UConn in the second round. Put that in your bracket. You will thank me later. I promise.
Do you feel like UConn matches up?
Yes.
With Kentucky? How?
Andre Drummond, one of the best big men in the league, who's a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, matches up well. He could get Anthony Davis in foul trouble. They have good guards. They have Jeremy Lamb. They have 2 top 10 picks on their team. They can win. They could beat Kentucky.
Well,
if you remember, UConn was a top 5 preseason team.
And then what happened? Their inconsistency.
Well, their coach got sick. They don't. The assistant coach didn't command the respect that Jim Calhoun does.
Even with Jim Calhoun in there, you can see the disparity within their games. Their offense dictates their defense. As you see in the past, when they won the national championship last year, they had players who were willing to sacrifice for the defensive end. This year, Napier is not necessarily the best defensive point guard. Jeremy Lamb is inconsistent defensively, and Drummond, he comes off the bench from time to time, and
he's starting now,
but he's not necessarily the most consistent player. Hold on, we got a caller. Welcome to the winning circuit. What's up? What's on your mind? Yeah, so the caller didn't respond. But anyway.
Call back.
203-345-0103. I mean, UConn, I don't see them matching up well in the tournament. They're hot because of some of their performances in the Big East tournament, mainly over West Virginia. But I don't really see them as a team that will really make a dent in the tournament.
Watch. You guys, listen to me and you'll win millions, all right? UConn will beat Kentucky, I promise you. And then they will eventually lose to Duke, who won the national championship.
Well, speaking on Duke, how do you feel? They are number 2 seed. How do you feel that they will match up in the tournament?
I think they have some of the best guards in the country. If the Plumlee brothers could just stay out of foul trouble, rebound, score a little bit in the paint, they could be any team in the tournament.
Well, prior to the matchup, if everything goes well with how you say it, if they match up, they have a matchup against Baylor coming up. If everything goes well,
Nobody's worrying about Baylor.
Baylor has some big men who are better offensively. Hold on, we got a caller. The winner's circuit. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, you were talking about the Knicks, about, whether they're going to win or not, how they're going to win. Yeah. I think Jeremy Lin and Carmelo have that chemistry, that can help the team.
Well, we hear what you're saying. One of us agrees with you and one of us doesn't. I don't agree with you.
I don't know why.
I mean, in the past, we would say Carmelo is a great offensive player. But with D'Antoni's system, he didn't necessarily adjust in the best way. How do you feel that their chemistry? You think they will develop good chemistry under Mike Woodson? How can they be great?
Oh well, there's countless things in basketball that we can't really predict until we actually watch the matches. So there's so many formulas that we just have to see and. Really, we base on, the past stats and stuff, but, as they play, they improve. So I think Jeremy Lin and Carmelo, they're sharpening their skills. So I think, but the only thing I don't understand is, that I haven't been following is the coach. What is the coach doing to help them?
Nothing. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Nothing.
So when Carmelo wasn't there, mind you, he's been back for 10
Mike
games.
D'Antoni has never won in his career.
And Carmelo has.
Yes, he won a national championship.
Stop. We're just talking about the NBA. Stick to the NBA.
He went to the Western Conference Finals?
One time.
So what?
Aside from that, he's never been out the first round.
Oh, my God. He will go to the NBA Finals
and he's been
this
swept.
year.
He's been swept twice.
He will go to the NBA Finals this year and prove all the haters wrong, like you.
Well, thanks for calling in. What's your name?
Oh yeah, Terry. But hey, I was thinking about the coach. It seems like the Knicks is holding the roof up. The players themselves, and the coach is he's doing nothing, right?
Exactly.
How long was the coach involved? Part of this.
He's been with the Knicks for almost 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't able to finish out his contract. He asked for an extension over the summer, and they denied him. So he should have got signed from then.
Why?
What's his name?
If they didn't extend his contract,
Mike D'Antoni, by the way, is his name.
If they didn't extend his contract, then what do you think? What did he think was gonna happen?
So what? He should have performed better. He should have instituted better offensive plays to help the team win.
So why were they winning without Carmelo?
Oh,
explain that. Before prior to this episode, prior to all the issues with the Knicks, when the Knicks were on a high, what were we saying? Jeremy Lin is bringing.
They were playing whack teams.
Oh, so now they were playing bad teams. When I mentioned that before, you said, "Oh, they're winning. Now they were playing bad teams." So you're making excuses.
I'm not making excuses. Carmelo makes the team better. He makes his teammates better. He's still a top 5 player in the NBA, people.
This is why Carmelo Anthony got traded in the first place.
Because he wanted to get traded. Denver didn't want to trade him. They were like, no, Carmelo, please stay. Because they knew he was a winner.
Mind you, the Denver Nuggets have the second best record since the Carmelo Anthony trade.
Yeah, and they won one playoff game.
Oh, and the Knicks
That's because the Knicks didn't have their full team.
Why are you making excuses?
It's not an excuse.
You think the Nuggets had their full team?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hey. So the Knicks, it's like they're on an island in a storm, and the leader is, they don't know what to do. So the team is, pushing on. So you guys, what do you think the team is doing to really, lift them up, raise them, build a tent around the storm?
I think the Knicks have been a lost franchise for the last 15 years.
And I think my friend hasn't watched a Knicks basketball game for the last 15 years because he obviously doesn't know what he's talking about.
I think since Jeff Van Gundy left, you guys been a lost cause.
They made the playoffs last year.
They made the playoffs twice in the last.
We talk about they made the
playoffs
last
twice,
year.
including last year.
Playoffs.
Last year is included in that twice.
Well, they won the championship this year, and then what?
You haven't won a championship in 39 years.
Well, they're due, and they're gonna win the championship this year. Mark it down, people. I'm always right when it comes to these things.
Yeah, I think they have a strong chance because
I agree.
the team is really, even if the coach, guys, the team itself is really the heart of their strength. So yeah, that's how I feel.
All right, thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling, man. You're a smart caller. Thank you.
All right, yeah.
See, the people agree with me. They know the Knicks are a great team. Every team in every sport goes through these things. Do you think Michael Jordan won every game? Do you think they went on an 82-game winning streak? No. Every team experiences losing streaks. It's how you handle it that determines if you're a champion or not.
We got another caller. You were calling the winning circle. What's on your mind?
Hello.
What's up?
Hello, how you doing? I'd like to know what you guys think about Phil Jackson possibly coaching the Knicks in the future.
Phil Jackson played for the Knicks.
Won a championship.
Learned under who?
Red Holzman, who is the greatest coach of all time.
Give us a call back, 203-345-0103.
But Phil Jackson will make a great coach. He can institute the triangle offense, and they already play great defense. So I think Phil Jackson should come to the Knicks. Now, it's reported that Jerry Sloan will want to coach the Knicks, and I don't blame him. Who wouldn't want to coach the future NBA champions? But I think if I had to choose between Phil Jackson and Jerry Sloan, I would choose Phil Jackson because he has the most rings in NBA history. He has 11 rings, people, 11. With the Knicks, he can win at least 7 more and get 18 rings. Who wouldn't want that? Wouldn't you want 18 rings? That's more rings than fingers. That's almost 2 rings a finger.
People, I'm speechless right now.
Why are you speechless?
I'm speechless right now.
What?
I can't deal with your delusional.
I'm not delusional. He won 11 championships. You say he can't win 7 more with the Knicks?
Not with the personnel that he has. With the players like Carmelo Anthony, Baron Davis, J.R. Smith.
But he won with players with like Ron Harper and Bill Cartwright. Like, he can win with anybody.
But his core players were players who had a winning personality. Players who didn't.
Carmelo has a winning personality.
Players who didn't accept losing.
The Knicks don't accept losing.
Carmelo Anthony has a history of losing.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, hopefully, let's just say Phil Jackson comes in and revitalizes the franchise. He tends to do that. He takes good teams and turns them into exceptional teams, turns them into dynasties. So let's say he comes to the Knicks and he builds around the dynamic duo of Amari Stoudemire, who prior to Carmelo,
you
said
25. That already.
You
said that
I have
already.
to bring it up to show.
Like, the people already heard you say that. We get it. I
have to re-emphasize the fact that he averaged 25 points before Carmelo,
and
then Carmelo comes in, it drops to 17 points.
Because before LeBron got there, D-Wade was averaging 30, and now he averaged 25. Does anybody say LeBron make D-Wade worse? No.
Well,
when you playing with superstars, of course your score is going to drop.
I mean, okay, Dwayne Wade, his scoring average goes down, but his field goal percentage goes up.
It's not.
His assist goes up. So
it's not Carmelo's fault.
He's turning.
Amari can't shoot.
Oh, when you have a superstar on your team,
it should be easier.
In any way, shape, or form, it should make your field goal. It should make your field goal more efficient. It should make the stresses of a defense. It should calm down against you.
And that's what's been happening. Amari can't make the perimeter jump shot. He doesn't want to play inside anymore.
Is it he can't make the jump shot, or he doesn't get the ball enough to shoot the ball?
He gets the ball. In the last game, he had 13 points in the third quarter. And Carmelo didn't get the ball in the fourth quarter until late in the game when it was almost over. And he almost still brought his team back.
he's talking this almost crap. He's talking.
It's not almost.
Almost this, almost that. If we lived in an almost world, the Knicks would have 12 championships. I mean,
you mean they don't already?
Phil Jackson was the coach who dismantled the Knicks franchise with the players with the likes of Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan and Horace Grant. I mean, I feel bad for the Knicks franchise that they have to resort to calling the men that beat them over and over again. I mean, shout out to Charles Smith. You know what I mean? There's certain situations that Phil Jackson knows how to get through to his players. He knows how to touch on the psychology of a player. And he's one of those coaches that allows his players to get through tough times. But I don't feel like this team has the personality to get through tough times together. You have the likes of J.R. Smith, who isn't necessarily the most team-oriented player. So there's not really a player on the Knicks that's team-oriented.
Carmelo Anthony?
Carmelo Anthony.
Jeremy Lin's team-oriented.
If Carmelo Anthony was a team-oriented player, he wouldn't have forced a trade out of Denver. He would have focused on
You can't blame Carmelo for wanting to play with the best franchise in all of sports. I don't understand. You can't fault him for that.
Is it he wanted to play for the best franchise in sports, or he saw that players were leaving to build a franchise and he wanted to try to do the same thing in New York? Why is it that he wanted to leave a good situation in Denver
to go to a better one?
Oh, and they're 18 and 24. They're a better situation. They're the New York Knicks.
They're still in the playoffs.
They didn't get better. They're still in the 8th seed.
They're going to get the 3 seed. Mark it down. They will get the 3 seed.
So that means they're going to win the division. They're going to end with a better record than the Sixers, who are 8 games over 500.
The Sixers are a horrible team. Nobody wants to play for the 76ers. Have you ever heard a superstar say, hey, let me get a trade to the 76ers? No. Were the Sixers on Dwight Howard's trade list? No. Nobody wants to play for the 76ers. That is a losing franchise. That is the worst franchise in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia has some pretty bad franchises, people. I mean, the 76ers, they barely had an all-star. Andre Iguodala? And you got the nerve to talk about Carmelo Anthony like he's not a multiple all-time all-star starter? The fans love Carmelo. You're the only one who doesn't love Carmelo right now.
Because I back up the stats. I back up what I'm
saying.
Stats
aren't everything.
I back up what I'm saying.
Stats are not everything.
He's not a selfless player, and he doesn't necessarily incorporate his playing style to team-oriented way of winning.
Carmelo on their team.
Well, I feel like the way we're winning right now, the way we lead
you're not a part of the team, people. Mind you, this guy is a 76ers fan. When's the last time the 76ers won anything in life? Never. Like, Philly teams don't win in sports.
Mind you, the last time the Knicks were in the finals was 1999.
And they would have won if Patrick Ewing didn't get hurt.
They would have won. Oh my!
Patrick Ewing got hurt.
All of these excuses, by the way. The Sixers have been in the finals more recently than the Knicks.
Did they win?
2001.
Did they win?
Also,
they didn't win.
Also, let's speak to current situations. The Knicks are 18 and 24.
You
the
said
Sixers
that.
Are 8 games over 500, leading the Atlantic Division. This is the latest that they've ever led the division since 2003.
That's bad. That's almost a decade.
When's the last time the Knicks won the division?
Last year.
They won the division last year.
They were the best team in the division.
They won
in my eyes, they won the division. Listen, people. You mean to tell me the 76ers are a better team than the Knicks? If they played in a playoff series right now, the Knicks will win. Easily. The Knicks already beat the 76ers.
Like they did last Sunday, right?
So what? That's one game. The Knicks beat them first. When everybody was healthy, everybody had both teams had their full roster. Who won? The Knicks.
So you didn't basically add 2 new players to your roster. And Baron Davis is healthy now.
He's not 100% healthy.
J.R. Smith is a new player to your roster.
He got to get incorporated to the system.
People, this is all excuses. All I do is tell you the facts. All I do is tell you the numbers. I tell
facts too.
This is excuses. I feel like this type of culture is what has transcended down to the fans. like the likes of my co-host and the likes of Spike Lee. They like to make excuses for why they're losing. They like to make excuses for why they haven't won a championship since 1973. They like to make excuses for the fact that Patrick Ewing isn't involved in their organization. They like to make excuses for why Charles Smith missed layups. They like to make excuses for why Michael Jordan repeatedly beat
What
them
does Michael Jordan have to do with
in the
anything?
playoffs.
First
I mean,
of all,
it's a
don't
culture.
ever compare me to Spike Lee.
He's
not a better fan than me. He just go to the games because he's rich. Okay, get your money. But anyway, what does Charles Smith, what does Michael Jordan have to do with the Knicks being better than the 76ers? Nothing.
This all comes in hand when you talk about the excuses that you make every single week about the Knicks. The Knicks are a bad franchise.
Franchise?
The thing that
They're
helps
the most
them,
valuable franchise in the NBA.
I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into that, like the location you're in.
Oh, excuses. Now we're talking. That's an
I
excuse.
mean,
the Knicks
you
win so
are
much that they're the most valuable
you
franchise
win
in the
so
NBA.
much. You win so much.
With winning,
You
get
win
paid.
so much. You have one season over 500 in the last
They had the
11
last season,
years.
Their last season, they were over 500. They'll be over 500 this year. So what are you talking about?
You made the playoffs 2 times in the last 11 years.
We talk about now. The Knicks are a better team right now.
Right now.
Right now.
18-24.
So you mean to tell me
Ninth in the East.
A team where Andre Iguodala as its best player is better than a team with Carmelo Anthony, Jeremy Lin, Tyson Chandler, Amari Stoudemire, J.R. Smith?
Obviously.
No.
Obviously.
No.
Obviously.
No. The Sixers will lose in the first round, people. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Are you gonna make it?
Listen, yes, the Knicks will make. I just said they'll get the 3rd seed.
No, honestly.
They will get the 3rd seed. I really, truly believe that in my heart. Right here, I believe that.
Well, we have about 8 minutes left in the show. So if any of you guys watching out there have anything to say about anything that we've said on this show or anything in the past that we spoke about, from Carmelo Anthony to the NCAA to any NFL matchups or potential signings that you see, give us a call. 203-345-0103.
And please, talk to my friend here because he just started watching basketball, so he doesn't know the full mechanics of how things work. I've been watching basketball since I was a baby. He just started. He's more of a football guy. So, which explains why he likes the Sixers. But because he doesn't understand. The Knicks put on a show. Every team is required to donate to charity. And that's what the Knicks are doing right now. They're just donating games to charity, because if the same team keep winning, nobody will watch. Everybody hates a dynasty, all right? So the Knicks, they care about the league so much that they allow other teams to think that they have a chance to win the championship when they know they honestly in their heart, they don't have a chance. But they want their fan base to believe that they can win a championship. But everybody knows the Knicks will win a championship. They have banners in Madison Square Garden, people. Banners.
As you can see, I'm speechless.
I don't understand.
I can't do it. I can't do it with this virus.
I speak the truth.
This is honestly. Here's the thing. You haven't won since 1973. That's a fact.
No, it's not.
You haven't won an NBA championship since 1973. The Knicks fans, aside from yourself, who would go to the Garden night in and night out, who sell out the Garden night in and night out, who come and dedicate their night from 7:30 to 10 p.m. every night, have not seen a Knicks championship since 1973. Who's on that roster? Earl Pearl Monroe, Walt Clyde Frazier, Willis Reed. These are players who we have a caller.
The Knicks will win a championship this year. That's all I know.
The winning circuit. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I got a question about the Knicks. All right, Carmelo's out injured, and they go on this big winning streak, right?
Yes.
They won 8 games in a row or something like that, or they were 8-1.
Yeah.
He comes back and they lose six. There's 6 in a row. They lost 6 in a row. So where's the problem here? Is it D'Antoni or the?
It's clearly D'Antoni. It's not Carmelo's fault. The only game that was Carmelo's fault was the Dallas game when he scored 6 points. What about the game on Monday when he scored 23 and Amari had 3 rebounds? Whose fault is that?
Well, as our caller brilliantly brought up,
Brilliantly.
I mean, the common denominator here is Carmelo. When Carmelo wasn't in the lineup, as he brilliantly mentioned, they're 8-1. It's an insanity in the Garden. They're winning games on the road. They're beating elite teams. All of these things are happening. Now, Carmelo, who's a great player, comes in and they start losing.
I think he never bought into D'Antoni's system.
I can't blame him because D'Antoni is a loser, and Carmelo's a winner. He doesn't want to buy into a losing system.
Well,
regardless, now he's gone. So they got to get somebody who's going to put a system into place that Carmelo can work with. And that's the key question. Who's going to be the coach now?
Well, it's Mike Woodson now, but I don't think he's going to be the long-term solution. I think they'll either get Phil Jackson, Jerry Sloan, somebody else will come in because I don't think Mike Woodson is a good coach.
Any coach that they get will have to realize that Carmelo Anthony's style is not conventional. He's a one-dimensional player.
All he does is get buckets.
The ball sticks to him, and his scoring is not necessarily the most prolific compared to some of the other great superstars that we've known.
Wait, let's ask the caller right now. Would you trade Carmelo Anthony if you were the Knicks?
What was the question?
Would you trade Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, if he could play up to his past numbers, his numbers this year aren't that good, but as he's been in past, but if he could play the way he did at Denver, sure.
So you would trade Carmelo Anthony?
Oh, I thought you said, would you keep him?
See, he wants to keep him because he knows Carmelo is a top 5 player in the NBA.
I think this year could be a wash, I mean, I don't know. They might make the playoffs, but they gotta start building the system that's going to be a proven winner. And the Jeremy Lin thing, I don't know. It could have just been a flash in the pan.
Yes.
But they got to start building because they can't. You can't have a coach and a star player who are not on the same page.
Great point. Great point. We want to thank you for calling in. As we wrap up, continue to tune into the Winning Circuit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like he said, Carmelo is like one of the best players in the NBA, and he will keep him. This is what the people decided. So the people agree with me. And I like to thank you people because, like I said, my friend just started watching basketball. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Honestly, thank you for tuning into the Winning Circuit, where we try to maintain the tradition of winning, unlike the Knicks. So, in the process, we will be right back here next week. If you have any questions, any analysis, or anything you want to chime in on, give us a call, 203-345-0103. But we gotta wrap up tonight. See you next week.